I've been involved in criminal psychology and police studies for nearly 30 years, both as an educator and somebody who has consulted and profiled for police organizations, both in Canada and the United States. You might say I've heard a lot of stories, a lot of bizarre stories. But when I heard the story from 1970, nothing could prepare me for what I was about to hear. You see, for 28 days in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, there was a poltergeist occurrence which involved several police officers. And I was fortunate to speak with 2 of the 3 main police officers involved in that incident. Over the 28 days, there were many police reports filed, and I've got copies of them. Reading through them, I wanted to believe. After I listened to these police officers and saw the police reports, it made me a believer. Now it's your turn. Do you want to believe?
So everything seems to be fine for the moment?
Everything's fine for now.
Glad to hear it. What was that?
Seems like the boy's having problems again.
Oh, all right, yeah. Okay, I'll be in touch. Good evening, ma'am.
I've been expecting you.
Early 70s, be 1970. We were sent to a disturbance unknown problem type situation, and in policing that's probably the worst kind of call you know, because you never really know what you're facing. You know, and it could be an armed person, it could be an investigating. Anyhow, we had to go to this apartment in St. Catharines, and when we got there, expecting some kind of disturbance, we really didn't find, we figured domestic it wasn't. And we talked to the parents of this young lad, and they were bewildered by a situation that they didn't know how to do anything with, they had no control over.
I joined the department in '65, and I'd been on probably 3 years when I took the call, 3 or 4 years, because we weren't regional at that point. It was all St. Catharines Police. So I took the report, and my sergeant came over, Sergeant Taylor, and he made a report also. And you have a list of all the people that witnessed these events. You got them in your hand there. We went back, I became interested in what was going on. Well, one detective, Richardson, came over, and he just sat there and listened and got up and walked. There was an assistant crown attorney that came, and some of these happened in front of him, and he left, and his coat was still hanging there 2 weeks later, and he never came back for it. So, people react differently. There was neighbors and friends that would sit there all night and just make sure that everything was fine with the parents and stuff. They had a lot of great support from neighbors and friends, which helped. I wasn't upset with anything. I just curious, more curious than anything. That's why I went back on my own time several times to witness other stuff that went on.
Help, please! I'm stuck to the wall! I'm stuck! Help, please!
He'd go to school, he'd come home from school, it would start again. Nothing happened at school. Nothing happened at his grandmother's, just in that particular house.
The young boy was sitting in a chair, and the chair lifted up and dumped this flat on the floor. If you weren't watching, you would think maybe it's just a chair turned over, or he did it and was just doing something for attention. But when his father went to reach down and lift the chair off the boy, the chair couldn't be lifted. And my partner who was there tried to lift the chair with him, and neither one of them could lift it. The young boy was on the floor. He was scared. He was crying. He was frustrated by the situation. So were we. Never having experienced any kind of phenomenon like this before, the only thing I wanted to do was get my ass out of there, and which we did. We eventually left, and we called the detective.
We moved the kid to his grandmother's because of the fact that in the old country, a ghost doesn't cross water. So we moved the kid for 2 weeks to his grandmother's in the Western Hill, which is across the creek in St. Catharines. Everything stopped. We brought him back, it stopped. Books flying around, this being disturbed, that being disturbed. And eventually it just went away by itself. We were at it for about 10 days and it just died. Just gone.
Eventually, Bob Crawford would have to have a sit-down with both the priest and the boy's mother, trying to figure out some solution to remedy the problem. It was not long after the meeting that things took a turn for, let's say, the more bizarre. The child, while sitting in a chair, began levitating, nearly 2 feet off the ground. Needless to say, things were becoming more disturbing. There were stories that the event lasted 28 days, a full lunar cycle.
Lights they put around the top of the living room, dining room area. You put knickknacks and souvenirs and plates on it. And I know the second time I was there, a plate come off of that shelf. It didn't fall and break on the floor. It fell, went across the room and smashed against the wall on the other side. And that was enough for me.
I believe there are spirits that move around, yes.
According to Crawford, things progressively got worse. More bizarre things began occurring in the boy's bedroom. At one point, everything in the room started flying off the walls and the dressers, other than a crucifix. Eventually, during one of Crawford's last visits to the boy's home, the boy, sitting on a bed, began levitating. Crawford stated that something very interesting occurred. That one of the last individuals to see the boy was a priest. And after the priest saw the boy, everything seemed to subside and eventually stop. And now, do you believe?